I've got the, this is the original pattern that I used for this fringe vest. I was too lazy to retrace it all again. So what I did is I laid this on my printer and I cut my freezer paper down to 8.5 by 11 and I just ran them through. You get the smudging, but it's not going to matter by the time you put it on your printer. So here's my back and here's my two front pieces. I'm going to go ahead and do the same size vest that I did in what you saw in the video. I didn't do any lining. This is the whole thing. It's 4 seams. You're going to put a side seam, a shoulder seam, and the other side, and that's basically it. These are optional. You can put little pockets if you want. You don't even have to do these if you want. I just saw that as I looked up vests on the internet, and a lot of them had little dangly things hanging here, so I just put a little thing on that. So this is what we're going to make. Like I said, the fabric I got at Walmart, it was $7.97 a yard. I only needed 1/4 yard, so it came to $1.99 plus tax. And it's 60 inches wide, so that's quite a bit of fabric. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started on cutting this out. First thing I'll do is I'll trim this down so I can line it up on my fabric. Okay, because we're not going to do any lining, you want to make some pretty nice cuts. You want your cuts to be pretty good and even. So, cut this off. Okay, so I'm at a medium weight iron, a medium heat iron, I should say. So I'm going to iron this on to the wrong side of the fabric. So we'll go ahead and start with the back. Okay, so here we go on my ironing board. This has no nap as far as I can tell. I tried feeling it both ways, and if there is a nap, it's very slight. But anyway, I'm doing them all the same direction just to be on the safe side. Okay, so go ahead and lay your pattern on. Now you want to keep your iron hot while you're cutting your pattern out, because if you don't, because of this kind of fabric, it tends to make your pattern lift off of the fabric itself. So let's go ahead and iron this down so it's nice and firm on the fabric. Okay, so let's go ahead and cut around keep your iron out so it's readily accessible. So let's get rid of all the bulk here. And like I said, this fabric tends to want this freezer paper tends to want to lift. So you want to keep your iron near you and on a medium setting so that you can go ahead and repress if you need to. So let's go ahead and start cutting out the pattern as it is. So when you get to the armpits, you're going to want to give it a really nice cut, because you can always smooth it out later, but since you're not going to have any lining in it, you want to make your cut as smooth as possible. Okay, so if you can turn it around to the other side and see if you got a smooth cut too. Okay, so let's cut the other arm. Okay. I can feel the paper already starting to lift. So this is going to be my last cut before I press it again. See how it's already lifting off? Because you're cutting so close to the fabric and the paper, it's pulling the paper away from the actual fabric itself. So let's go ahead and cut that. And now let's do the neck. This could be any pattern you want, any vest pattern you like. This doesn't have to be this way. It could be anything. This is just an example of what you can do. Okay, so let's go ahead and cut the bottom. the edges, your two edges, and this is going to be your sewing seam. You're going to sew this to the front, and then you're just going to trim it down to size. So let's cut the other side. And about now your your paper is probably starting to lift. So we're going to want to give it another press. Okay, as far as the fringe, like I said, I gave mine, it looks smudgy because I did it on the printer, but I gave myself 3/8 of an inch fringes. So when you cut this, to keep your paper from lifting, what you want to do is you want to hold your fingers here like this, press down like this, and hold, so that you don't have to keep ironing your paper, and then just cut up on each one of these lines. These are your guides. Just cut up straight to that top. Take your time. If your paper starts to lift, repress. If you want to make long fringe and make diamonds, you can do that. I've seen some really pretty vests that way. Okay, so just keep cutting your fringe, and if the paper lifts, repress. Speed this up a little bit. Okay, let me repress. Okay, and we are up to this one. You could do the same technique with the top of boots, where you're going to sew your fringe on the top of your boots. I haven't made the boots yet, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to iron this on a pair of boots and have fringe boots. Okay, we're down to the last cut. Okay, made all our cuts, and now we can remove the paper. Okay, and there is the back of our vest. Now, as far as cutting those little diamonds on the bottom, like I did on the back of this one, from the front, I cut them this way, so I came around to half of the back, and when you get to the middle of the back, I did half one way and half the other. But it's up to you how you want to cut that off. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cut out the front and the two fronts, and then I'm going to come back and show you how I sew this together. I'm going to, like I said on the back, I'm going to go half and half. So if you want, you just cut this in, and you don't even have to trim them that way if you don't want to, but find your middle, and then you can go ahead and make your cuts that way. Just determine which way you want to go, so that it would be your, let's see, how did I do that? I did this way. Okay, so this one's going to go, I just took a little clip off of the bottom of all of them, just like that. It doesn't matter. You can do them all the same direction if you want to. It's just if you're picky or not. and then you just keep cutting. If you want to variate it so that they're cut in different directions, you can do that anyway. I mean, it's so simple. You can do these absolutely any way you want to. Okay, I'll be back and I'll have the front and the front pieces cut out, and then we'll go to the sewing machine. I'm using a regular needle, regular thread, nothing fancy. Okay, so I'll be back.